Hello, and thank you for joining me today as part of OSBA's Get On Board campaign. My name is Sara Clark, and I serve as the Chief Legal Counsel for the Ohio School Boards Association. These short videos were designed to provide information about the legal aspects of running for school board. This specific video is designed to focus on the first steps you'll need to take to hit the ground running as a candidate and includes information on filing your nominating petition, setting up and registering your campaign committee, and setting up your bank account. We also have other videos that talk about campaign contributions, campaign expenditures and disclaimers, and campaign reporting requirements. Please check out OSBA's Get On Board website for links to these videos. Okay, let's get started. Each candidate is required to file a form with County Board of Elections that serves as a declaration of candidacy. This is commonly referred to as a nominating petition and can be picked up or downloaded from the Ohio Secretary of State's website. On the website, which I've screenshot for you here, you'll see a number of different nominating petitions that vary based on the type of school district that you'll be running for. So for example, the nominating petition for a city, local, or exempted village school district is 3T, whereas the nominating petition for an educational service center is 3W. Make sure that you pull and use the correct nominating petition for the office that you seek. Petitions need to be filed with the County Board of Elections, and there is currently not an option to file those electronically. If your school district is in more than one county, you must file your petition in the most populous county of the school district. If you have questions about where your County Board of Elections office is located, I have actually provided a link to a directory where you can look up where your County Board of Elections is based off of your address. Nominating petitions are required to be filed no later than 4 p.m. on the 90th day before the general election. This year, that date is August 4th, 2021. You are also required to file a $30 filing fee, and that needs to accompany the submission of your nominating petition. This is what the top of that petition looks like, and the first section is about your statement of candidacy. So this section needs to be completely filled out and signed in ink before it is circulated. Your petition will actually be ruled invalid if it's dated after the petition is circulated. The statement of candidacy also includes information about your address. It certifies that you're a qualified elector. In order to be a qualified elector, you must be a US citizen who is at least 18 years old. You must also have been a resident of the district and registered to vote in the district for at least 30 days prior to the election. The statement of candidacy also indicates your desire to be a candidate for Board of Education. You'll be asked to designate whether you're seeking a full term or whether you're seeking to fulfill the unexpired term of a recently vacated position on the board. The next section of the nominating petition allows you to designate a committee to represent you. What this basically does, and it's a little bit funky, but it allows you to replace your name on the ballot with another individual's name if you happen to die before the 10th day before the general election. Like I said, it's an old and somewhat weird provision of the law that was set up to ensure that the electorate has the opportunity to make a choice between candidates regardless of what happens to those candidates prior to the election. And so essentially what happens is that if this section is filled out, your campaign committee would convene after you pass away and designate a new person whose name would appear on the ballot in lieu of you. Assuming that person is interested, that designation then would be sent to the Board of Elections, who would then replace your name with the new candidate's name on the ballot. You are not required to appoint a committee, and even if you do appoint a committee, that committee does not have to have exactly 5 people on it. Additionally, even if you appoint a committee, that committee doesn't actually even have to name a replacement in the event that you die. So really, it's up to you whether you fill this section out. You can leave it blank. The next section of the form precedes the signature section of the form of those people who are nominating you as a candidate for Board of Education. Again, those individuals who are signing your petition are required to be qualified electors. This means that they must be US citizens who are at least 18 and must have been residents of the district for at least 30 days prior to the election, and they must be registered to vote in the district for at least 30 days prior to the election. Those individuals who sign your petition are stating their belief that you are well qualified to perform the duties of the position. All right, let's talk about signatures. So each petition is required to contain the signatures of electors of only one county. So if you have to run a multi-county election, then you need to file and circulate separate petition papers in each county. Signatures must be in ink. You cannot sign your own petition as the candidate. If you have individuals who are helping you gather signatures, those individuals may not sign the petition papers that they are circulating, but it's okay for them to sign a petition paper that is being circulated for you by someone else. The number of signatures that you need on your petition depends on the type of school district that you're running for. So board members who are running for a local or exempted village school district need 25 valid signatures. Board member candidates for ESCs need 50 valid signatures. And the number of signatures needed for board member candidates for city school districts is dependent on the population of the district and runs anywhere from 25 signatures to 300 signatures. It's a good idea to get more than the minimum number of required signatures, as they are regularly invalidated by the County Board of Elections. However, no petition may contain more than 3 times the minimum number of required signatures. The final section of the form is the circulator statement. This is the statement from the individual who circulated the petition, where they identified that they witnessed every signature, believed that everyone was qualified to sign, and that the signature of the person aligns with the person they purported to be. Each petition paper shall be circulated by only one person, and it's okay for the candidate to circulate his or her own petition. Circulators must also have to be at least 18 years old. Okay, the next several slides discuss how you can set up your campaign committee. And the first thing to notice is that there are several different types of campaigns. The first is called filing fee only candidate. These are the committees that are for those individuals who know from the get-go that they will receive no contributions and make no expenditures. It may be that they're running unopposed or are otherwise a shoo-in for the position. These individuals only pay the $30 filing fee that is required to file the nominating petition. The second type of campaign is one where the candidate spends only his or her own funds. It's permissible for candidates to donate items or monies to their own campaigns, but they should recognize that those are still considered either contributions if there's no expectation of reimbursement, or expenditures if you're expecting to be reimbursed. You still need to track and report those expenditures, even if they're all coming out of your own pocket. And Jenny Harden actually reviews the reporting requirements in the fourth video of this series. The next type of campaign is the local candidate waiver campaign, and we'll talk about that in a second on a separate slide. The next one is the single beneficiary campaign, and these are probably the campaign structure that you're most familiar with. And then the last type of campaign is the multi-beneficiary campaign. These are campaigns where a single campaign committee represents multiple candidates. So for example, if you have 2 candidates that are running for 3 open board seats, you could establish a multi-beneficiary campaign that would represent both candidates. You set up one campaign and jointly file all the required reports. There's a little bit more to this type of campaign, and I encourage you to come to one of the candidate workshops or give us a call if you have questions about how to set up or manage a multi-beneficiary campaign. I mentioned on the last slide about the local candidate waiver. This is available only for certain positions, and what it does is it exempts candidates from filing any campaign finance reports. The Board of Education is one position that is specifically authorized to use a local candidate waiver. And so by completing this waiver, you are essentially acknowledging that you will not accept more than $2,000 in contribution and will not make any expenditures that total more than $2,000. In order to qualify for this waiver, you also have to ensure that no more than $100 is received from any individual. That $100 limitation doesn't apply to contributions from the candidate. So even if you file this waiver, there's no penalty if your committee exceeds these limits. You're just then required to go back and report all the contributions that you received and the expenditures that were made on the next required financial statement. Okay, candidates are required to establish campaign committees if they're going to receive contributions or make expenditures. So filing fee only candidates, because they're not receiving contributions and because they're not making expenditures other than their filing fee, they're not required to create a campaign committee. However, everybody else does. So if you're using your personal funds only, you're still required to create a campaign committee. However, your committee can just be you, the candidate. Those candidates who complete the local candidate waiver are not exempt from the requirement of setting up a campaign committee. You're still required to have one. All that waiver does is exempt you from filing reports if you come under that threshold dollar amount. And then single beneficiaries and multi-beneficiary committees are still required to have a campaign committee. Committees are required to register their committees with the County Board of Elections, and you do that by filing what's called the Designation of Treasurer form, which is Form 30D at the Ohio Secretary of State's Forms website. You must complete this form and file it prior to receiving a contribution or making an expenditure. The use of your personal funds to pay the filing fee does not require you to file this form. The designation of treasurer form also needs to be updated and amended as necessary. So if you, for example, change your treasurer or you change your committee name or your address, you will be required to update your form with the County Board of Elections. And the next few slides show what the actual form looks like. So if you're filing a new designation of treasurer form, you should select that this is a new filing and choose candidate as your committee type. If you are providing an update, you should select update as your type of filing. On the form, you are asked to provide the full name of the campaign committee. The committee name is required by law to include at least the last name of the candidate. And I would make the recommendation to make that name general rather than specific. So for example, I'd name it Friends of Clark rather than Clark for School Board. And this is because it allows you're allowed to use the same campaign committee if you seek a new office down the road, as opposed to setting everything up all over again. The form also asks that you designate a campaign committee treasurer. The treasurer is required to keep a strict account of all contributions, from whom they were received, and the purposes for which they were dispersed. And it is okay for the candidate to serve as the campaign committee treasurer. This is just a reminder to sign the designation of treasurer form. Both the treasurer and the candidate must sign the form every time it's filed or updated. And then the last thing we're going to discuss is the requirement for candidates to set up bank accounts. So candidates are required to establish a bank account that's separate from their personal or business accounts. The only exception to this is that candidates who will not accept any monetary contributions and will use only personal funds, they do not need to establish a separate bank account for their committees. For everybody else, any monetary campaign contribution that's received by the candidate or the candidate's committee must be deposited into this account. And all expenses that are paid from this account need to be disclosed. A federal identification number may be required by the committee's chosen financial institution, and that number will be issued by the IRS if you request that. This slide just shows the types of committees and whether a separate bank account is needed. So this concludes the first of our webinars in our Get On Board series. As I mentioned at the beginning, the legal division has put together separate webinars identifying the legal parameters around campaign contributions, expenditures, and reporting requirements. I encourage you to view those webinars as well. We also have a tremendous number of resources on our Get On Board Ohio website. Your County Board of Elections and the Ohio Secretary of State's office also provides resources for candidates in a number of different areas. I'd also encourage you to attend one of OSBA's upcoming regional candidate workshops, which typically take place in September. A link to those workshops appears on the slide. If you do have questions as a candidate, please feel free to contact OSBA's legal division at 855-OSBA-LAW. We're happy to provide assistance or point you to legal resources that may specifically answer your questions and concerns. I wish you all the best of luck with your campaigns and hope to work with you after the election.